Good morning. Nothing like a few seconds of awkwardness. And if you know me, that's me. But usually it's more than a few seconds of awkwardness. It's a lifetime. So just ask my wife, Teresa, if you're watching at home. Hello. She'll be here at 10:30. So anyway, as you can tell, I am not Pastor Rachel. I am Weldon. And you get me today with no dinosaur costume, no pie in the face, no Chewbacca costume. You just get me. So when Pastor Cameron said it's good to have fun in church, come down to Kingdom Kids and you'll get more of that kind of stuff. Maybe you'll get a pie in the face, or we get to pie Pastor Rachel in the face someday. So, because I do owe her one. So if you've seen that. So anyway, before we start, we're going to talk about Adam and Eve and their first sin. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about last week. And last week at 10:30, we had Kingdom Kids open, nursery. Yes, give God a hand, because it was 6 months ago. It was like March 8th was the last time we was down there. And it was great to hear laughter, to see kids playing. It was also great to hear kids crying, because that was normal. Now, as a parent, when you have a kid crying, I know there was one in the nursery that cried a lot, but when you have kids crying, it's usually not good. They're hurt, something's wrong. But it was still great to hear that kind of normalcy going on. So that leads me to, if you want to help somewhere in the church, we could still use your help. We still need people down there to help us do this. We cannot do this alone. Pastor Rachel and all the staff, we need help. And like Julene always tells me, prayerfully think about it. So prayerfully think about if you want to get connected, because we could still use your help. If you have kids or if you don't have kids. One thing I'll say, and this, I wasn't going to add this, but I taught preschool last week, and one thing I learned, I am not a preschool teacher. So I get to do it again this week. So pray for me. So if you have a special skill in preschool, come down. I could use your help. So anyway, so we're going to talk about Adam and Eve real quick. I used most of my time talking there. But if you could pull up the slide, the verse. And God told Adam and Eve not to eat of the tree of the, you can see the verse there. But you must not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. From that you shall surely die. So we know what happened. They ate of the tree. Now, they didn't die immediately. I brought the apple up just to show you. But they did not die immediately. But sin came into the world, and it started to kill us from that point on. So the one thing that God gives us is choices. Now, God gave Adam and Eve a choice. Do they eat of the tree, or do they not eat of the tree? If you're my age, 47, think back. If your mom and dad ever told you not to touch the stove because it was hot, has anybody ever heard that? Don't touch the stove because it was hot. Well, about 6 weeks ago, you're not going to really be able to see it. I accidentally hit the stove and I burnt myself. And it's still, there's a red mark there. It's still healing. And sometimes we have a sin in our life and it affects us for a day or so, because this is still healing 6 weeks later. I know you can't see it, so maybe that's not a good example. It's pink, trust me. And then sometimes, like Adam and Eve sin, it affected all humanity. But the one great thing about that is God sent his son to die on the cross to cover all our mistakes. And I'm going to close here real quick, but the one thing I wanted to tell you, what's the best way to break a bad habit? In my opinion, the best way is you don't start. So when we tell you, I can see some, the Foley's up here, hello. When we tell you guys, guard your heart, watch what you put in your mind, watch what you put in your heart. There's a lot of bad things out there. There can be alcohol, drug addiction, pornography, food, many more bad things that you can put in yourself. And the best way not to have that affect your life is you never start. But if you do start, you come to God in prayer, and we're going to go to Pastor Amy here in a second for the Lord's Prayer. You come to God in prayer, you ask him to forgive you, and then one other thing that you can do, there's one other thing you should do. You get somebody to come alongside you, somebody that's of the Lord, of God. Get a group with Pastor Amy, because you can't do this alone. Some of the choices that you make at 8 years old will affect you when you're 50, because it's one little thing and it leads to another. So if today something is wrong, just give it to God in prayer. Now we can go to Pastor Amy for the Lord's Prayer.